David Wygant, 10-minute daily reality check. Welcome to the reality for Friday, end of August. It is the last Friday in August. Next Friday, you'll be in September. Next Friday will be Labor Day weekend. Go figure that one out. I'm going to ask you again, and I've said it over and over again. Has your summer produced the results that you thought your summer would produce? Did your summer produce those results? Did you meet the person of your dreams? Did you get a raise? Did you put more money in your bank account? Here's a reality check today. Are you in better position now than you were Memorial Day weekend? Be honest with yourself. I'm going to tell you why I'd say 90% of you are not. And that's not a, that's not a knock on you at all. I could say the reason why 90% of you are not in the position that you wanted to be by the end of the summer is because you didn't have the tough conversations that you needed to have. You skated around them, like the Central Park rink in the wintertime. You skated around them because it's easier to skate around the tough conversations in love, business, and friendship than it is to have those conversations. We've talked before about this on the reality check. We talked about going through the tough conversations. I can think back throughout my entire life, all the hard conversations I had to have. I remember every single one of them. I remember my first tough conversation. I was literally 8 years old. I walked around wishing my father was dead. It's a little fucking hard on an 8-year-old's mind. I wish my dad was dead. Why did I think this way? Well, because my dad was never really spending time with me. My dad never really gave me quality time. He'd play baseball with me in his socks. He would play basketball with me in the driveway with a drink in his hands. We would have a quick 15-minute family dinner where he would just wolf down his food, and then he'd head upstairs to watch TV in bed or read a book, and then go to sleep by 10 o'clock. There was no quality time with my dad. My dad would play golf on the weekends. No quality time with the kids. My friend Brett, who's been on the podcast all week long, if you ask him, he used to sleep at my house almost every single night, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. He never remembers my dad really doing much of anything but having a drink in his hand. So I remember when I was 8 years old, I literally walked around thinking to myself, I really wish my father was dead. Tough stuff to think about. I remember going to a therapist, and the therapist talked to me, and then I remember the therapist talking to my father to me, and I remember the goal was to have my father take me out once a week for a father-son dinner or father-son event. So we went to the Knick game. That didn't work. Nothing worked, and of course, after a while, my father decided not to do that anymore. I remember every single time I needed to have a tough conversation with him, I dreaded it. I was terrified of it. So I learned at a young age not to have hard conversations at all, because hard conversations bring the most amount of anxiety to us as people. It's really hard to confront somebody. It's really hard to say something to somebody that you need to say. It's really difficult because, for one, you don't want to hurt their feelings. And a lot of the times, you don't really want to find out the truth. So you'd rather sweep the conversation under the proverbial rug instead of actually having the conversation, because it's easier to be in denial than it is to actually find out the truth. It's the wrong way to live. Here's what's amazing when you have a tough conversation with somebody. Here's what's going to work. You have a tough conversation with somebody. You're not only going to learn to communicate better, you're going to learn how to walk through fears. I don't care who the tough conversation is, and I want you to think to yourself right now, how many people in your life that you need to have a tough conversation with, but you're afraid to do it. You're either afraid because you're afraid that they won't listen, you're afraid that, they're not going to want to hear your opinion. You're afraid that it's going to be combative. You're afraid that it's going to end a friendship or a relationship or whatever it might be. I want you to write down right now all the people that you're afraid to have a conversation with. Then I want you to start going through each of those lists, and I want you to go have those conversations. Yeah, just like that. You see, when you have the tough conversation, you get to speak your truth. Excuse me. When you're speaking your truth, the other person can feel your authenticity. And remember, it's never about their reaction. It's never about what they're going to say, because you don't want to seek validation at all. All you want to do is have the truth. All you want to do is speak your truth and get it out into the universe, into the world. I had one of those conversations the other day, and this person who means a lot to me spoke their truth. And it was amazing to hear it. And I felt their apprehension around the whole thing, not wanting to hurt me, not wanting to insult me. And I listened to them. And because they spoke their truth, I was able to confess something that I've never confessed before to anybody. I was able to then speak my truth. And we had that conversation that was really difficult to have. You see, when you have a difficult conversation with somebody and you do it with compassion and empathy and not making somebody wrong or really expressing the way you feel, I feel this way, or I've always felt this way, and I would love for you to hear me right now. I'd love for you to just give me that space right now so I'm able to just communicate with you in this present moment so you can truly hear me. Because when someone does that, the other person is going to truly hear you. And they're going to respond in a way that, well, you won't even imagine. How many times have you thought about the tough conversation in your head and you've actually rehearsed it in your brain? You've rehearsed that conversation. Well, I'm going to say this, and they're hopefully going to say that, and you've actually rehearsed the conversation. I know guys do it all the time. They do it all the time when they try to meet women. They actually rehearse the opener, and then they rehearse the next step that the woman's going to say, and then they're going to say that. But what if I told you that every conversation you're going to have, even the most difficult ones, are going to yield you an outcome that you never ever expected before, an outcome that you didn't even realize existed, an outcome based on a higher level of consciousness, an outcome based on a much higher level of living, learning, and growing? What if I told you the person's not even going to respond in any which way that you even imagined, and they're going to respond in a way that's going to be far greater for you? What if I told you that every tough conversation you ever needed to have is a tough conversation that will help you grow as a communicator? Because in life, all we have is the power to communicate with each other every single day. So when you dread a conversation, you're really dreading your own truth. Because every conversation that you have is really just expressing your own truth, your own unique truth. Whatever answer the other person has, or whatever compassion the other person has, or whatever the other person says to you doesn't really matter, because the more you speak your mind, the greater clarity you're going to have in your life, the greater relationships you're going to have, the more love you're going to have, the more money you're going to have, the more everything you're going to have, the more happiness you're going to have, because you're finally living your authentic truth. Don't dread a conversation, ever. Because conversations are the ultimate truth. Ultimate truth. They really, truly are. There's nothing better than having that tough conversation, because you're doing it to get the clarity that you need in your life on every level. The clarity that you need today, the clarity that you need for the future, and you may not even get the response that you need from that person. But you're going to realize that you actually lived and survived and had that conversation with somebody. And that's the key. Once you express yourself and live that conversation, you're going to learn the key to life. And the key to life is real simple in today's reality. Have the tough conversation. You'll still be standing, you'll still be alive, and you'll get whatever clarity and truth you need. The relationship might end, the friendship might end, you might lose a job, but you're going to learn to communicate better. And I'm just giving you the really most outrageous worst case scenarios. No one's going to stab you, punch you, kill you, murder you, or anything else. But in reality, you might get something that's far greater. You might get a clarity in a relationship that's been needed to be had for so long. So today, I challenge all of you to have the conversations you dread and see what happens. That's it. I'm done. I'm done talking. We're deep. We're real. We're the 10-minute reality check. Spread and pass, share, and have that conversation today. I'll see you tomorrow.